Hello guys, this is your TA Leonard, and I will be going over lab number 11, which is on the reproductive system. So first I'm going to go over the structures on the male model. So this right here is a male model in which you have the bladder. So this right here, this would be the bladder. You would have then this is the bladder. Next would be the ductus deferens. The ductus deferens is this tube right here in which it comes from your scrotum and from your testes, and it goes all the way up and around like this. So that's your ductus deferens. You have a spermatic cord. Your spermatic cord is your ductus deferens plus these blood vessels right here. So all these together, the ductus deferens plus the associated structures, this would be the spermatic cord. You have then the seminal vesicle. So this right here, this thing right here, right next to the ductus deferens, this would empty into the seminal vesicle. Next is the prostate. So this right here is the prostate. There's the tube thing right here, the little tube right there, in which it goes through the prostate. That's called the prostate urethra. So this right here is the prostate urethra. Then after that point is this whole thing right here. This is called the spongiosum urethra. And it's called the spongiosum urethra because of this tissue right here. This tissue right here is called the corpus spongiosum. So it's a little bit softer. So corpus spongiosum, and the duct which goes through the corpus spongiosum is the spongiosum urethra. You then have the bulbourethral gland, which is this one, which is right under the prostate right here. This is the bulbourethral. It's kind of like a little tiny bulb, and then there's a urethra which passes through it, so that's why it's called the bulbourethral gland. Next is the pubic bone. So this is the connection part where the pubic bone would be. So this pubic bone. You have the corpus cavernosum, which is this purple thing on the top right here. This is the corpus cavernosum. That's this one right here. And then you have the glans penis, which is the tip of the penis right here. So that's the glans penis. You have the testes, which is this one right here. And then you have the epididymis, is this little C-shaped, crescent-shaped thing that's on the side of the testes, and this is where sperm would mature. And then you have the prepuce, or the foreskin. So the prepuce would be around the glans penis, and this is when the male is uncircumcised. If it's circumcised, this would be cut off. So yeah, so that's the prepuce. Next is over the female model. So this right here is the female model, in which you have first is the mons pubis, which is this area right here. This is the mons pubis. You have the labia majora and labia minora. So this first one right here, this outline right here, that's the labia majora. This one right here is the labia minora. You have the ovary. So the ovary would be this yellow egg structure right here. So this right here is the ovary, and then this right here, in which it connects to your uterus, is called the uterine tube or the fallopian tube. So that's the uterine tube. This right here is the uterus. This is the other half of the uterus, and then the bladder is right under it. Okay? At the end of the uterus right here, this is called the cervix, right here. You have the vagina, which is this area right here, and the end of the vagina right here, which creates these two corners, that's called the fornix. Okay, so the space area is called the fornix. Then the end of the uterus, this area right here, is called the cervix. You have the rectum, which is this one right here. This is the rectum. And then you have the urethra, which is this tube right here, in which you have your urine in your bladder, which then escapes through your urethra. Then you have your clitoris, which is this structure right here. That's the clitoris. And that is it for the male and female reproductive models. Yay! One other thing that you need to know on the male model is the Premaster muscle, and this is the Premaster muscle right here, and this helps with regulating temperature of the scrotum and the testes in order for optimal sperm production. The first slide that we're looking at right now is the human testis, and the testes we have to have three structures that we have to recognize in the cross section of the human testes. The first thing is the seminiferous tubules, which is the entire circular area that is labeled right there. The Sertoli cells, those would be the darker dots that would be inside the seminiferous tubules, while the Leydig cells, which would they would be the cells that would be between the seminiferous tubules. They'll be dispersed in the spaces that would be the seminiferous tubules. The human sperm, you only need three things that you need to know on that, which is pretty self-explanatory, but I'll also go over it. First is the head, which is then next is the neck, which is a little bit thicker than the tail, and the tail helps propel the sperm forward. In the ovary, the first thing that we need to recognize is the primordial follicles, which are the small follicles near the germinal epithelium. And as you can see over there, they're a lot smaller and they're a lot simpler than the primary follicles. The primary follicles are a little bit more detailed and are slightly bigger than the primordial follicles. And as you can see, the nucleus in the middle starts to form even better. In the secondary follicle, it grows compared to the primary. It starts to grow even more, and what happens as well is that there's a space that's kind of a little bit crescent shaped that would be around in the edges of the secondary follicle, and when these start to grow, they would eventually fuse together and they would become the mature follicle. And the mature follicle would then have this big space with the oocyte at the corner of the mature follicle. After the mature or Graafian follicle would expel its oocyte from the ovary, the remaining follicle would turn into a corpus luteum. As you can see there, the corpus luteum is similar colored to the rest of the tissue of the ovary, but as you can see, there's a slightly different texture to it.